Legend of Total War here, and today I want to talk just briefly about the Amethyst Wizard, which is about to be introduced into Total War Warhammer 2 for the Empire roster. And the main argument that I want to make for this is that I don't think that this wizard here is going to make the Empire one bit more powerful. Because, the Amethyst Wizard is going to have the Law of Death attached to it. And as I've addressed before, Law of Death is not a top 5 Law of Magic. And the Empire actually has 4 out of 5 of the top 5 Law of Magics already in their roster. They've already got the most diverse range of wizards available to any other faction. And diversity doesn't necessarily make a faction stronger. Now, some people probably don't want the Empire to get any stronger, and that's fine. I personally do think that they need a little bit more of a buff, mainly to keep up with the power creep issue that's happening with the new world races because of the new DLC, new content being introduced, making these new races even more powerful. Old world races are being left behind. And there's good examples of when Creative Assembly have gone back to old world races and really given them the boost that they needed to be able to compete with the power creep issue. Now, there's 3 cases already so far of old world races getting updates, giving them a bit of a boost. So there's Bretonia with their Bretonian update. I don't know what it was called, where they got a slight boost to their economy and just a little bit of a buff. And I'd say that was probably the lesser of the 3. And I'd even say that that Bretonia still probably can't really compete with the New World races. They're probably still one of the weakest races in the game. But it was a good amount of update, I think. At least a little bit of flavor to them. Then there was the Dwarfs with their Oath Gold mechanic, which is something that I personally really like, but can probably say that it doesn't really make them that much stronger, at least in the early parts of the campaign. Late part of the campaign, there's some items in there that are pretty good. And then there's the vampire accounts getting the Blood Kiss and a rework of their tech tree. So with the Empire, they're just getting a new wizard, and that was probably the least thing that they needed to improve upon. Their magic is already diverse enough as it is. They've already got 6 laws of magic, so this is going to be the 7th law of magic that they'll have access to them, and that's not including their 8th law of magic if you include Gelt, because you can't recruit metal wizards except for Balthazar Gelt. And he's a very powerful wizard, as I've come to experience recently. In Warhammer 1, he was trash, but now he's really good. Anyway, so why do I think that the Amethyst Wizard is basically a sideward step for the Empire? It's because of Law of Death. I've done a fair bit of testing with the Laws of Magic. Now, this is based on campaign, not based on multiplayer, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people that say, oh, but in multiplayer it's really good for Lord Sniping. If it's good for multiplayer, that's great. I'm only referring to campaign here. I don't play multiplayer, so I really can't comment on it. So that would just be a moot point. But anyway, I just wanted to address that really quickly. Basically, when it comes down to a lot of the laws of magic that are very powerful, they've got very powerful vortex spells. I always find that the vortex spells probably rack up the most kills. So in the case of, say, the fire magic, they've sort of got 2 vortex spells. They've got the screaming skull, not screaming skull, the burning skull. It's more of a breath attack, but it doesn't matter. And then they've got the flame storm, which is probably the most powerful vortex spell in the game. And it's also really cheap, and it lasts a really long time, and can be overcasted. And then you've got the Law of Light, which has Banishment, which is, again, a really powerful spell. I think it has the same Winds of Magic cost as the Purple Sun of Xerius, which is the Death Magic one, and lasts, I think, 7 seconds longer than the Purple Sun of Xerius. And then you've got the Heaven's Magic with Chain Lightning, which I think doesn't last a particularly long time, but it's really cheap on magic. So when it comes down to it, these are the really big killers on battlefields. Oftentimes rack up hundreds, if not thousands, of kills with these spells. And yes, the Purple Sun of Xerius can rack up thousands of kills as well if you put it on one big massive blob. But in my opinion, the other spells just outperform them. Now, the other spells in the Death Magic roster are probably really good for multiplayer, but not so good for single player. Like, you've got the Fate of Bijuna, which used to be one of the most powerful spells in the game, and still is quite powerful, but it's also really draining on Winds of Magic. So unless the battle is going to be super quick, which sometimes it isn't, the death magic, I just don't think outperforms the others. Now, one thing that they could be doing with the Amethyst Wizard that might make him more viable than the other wizards is something that they did with the Amber Wizard, and that is give the guy a powerful mount. So if this guy is riding a motherfucking three-headed dragon or something, then it doesn't really matter so much that his Lore of Magic isn't the most powerful in the College of Magic, because the others I think they can ride a Pegasus, and that's not going to be as powerful as a motherfucking dragon. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Another thing they could do is give him a skill set that is going to be different from the other wizards. And in many ways, a lot of the wizards in the game have a really limited skill tree. You get 39 points to distribute in an unmodified campaign, and you end up getting like 90% of all skills available. So if this guy is going to have an extra couple of skills that'll improve his army, give him some more winds of magic, or who knows, then that'll make him a lot more viable and will actually help the Empire become on par with some of the New World races. But I somewhat suspect, since it's like a free LC, it's basically a flavor pack. It's more or less a reskinned Death Wizard for the Empire, which again I don't have a problem with. But of the 4 races that have had rework now for the old world, this is probably the weakest of the 4, which is still good, but a thing to consider is that I don't think we're going to get another update for the Empire until Warhammer 3, because if they're going to do some more TLC for the old world races, they'll need to cover the other ones like the Wood Elves or the Beastmen or even Norska, some of those races, or the Greenskins. The Greenskins haven't had an update in a really long time. Their mechanics are woefully lacking. They're still, relatively powerful, but they could really use some TLC. I imagine those would probably be next, because those are the sort of the 4 races, the 4 initial races that were playable of the 4. The Greenskins is now the only one that hasn't had any rework done to them. But anyway, overall, I think this is good. I just kind of wanted a little bit more out of the Empire. I feel like, in terms of mechanically speaking, all of the other old world races got, like, rather than just a new unit, they actually got some more things to do on the campaign map. And it's just a little bit disappointing to see that the Empire is not getting that this time around, because I do really enjoy playing as the Empire, and I wanted to. What I really want, and I don't expect this, is to have all the races in the game have access to the mortuary cult or the Oath Gold mechanic, where they can craft their own items. That's probably one of my favorite mechanics that they introduced into Total War Warhammer 2, and it was really the turning point from me liking the game to loving the game with the mortuary cult, because I just thought it was an amazing mechanic, and whoever came up with that, I think, deserves a pay rise at CA. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. I don't really want to go into detail with the actual fixes. It looks like Ikit's going to get a bit of a nerf. Surprise, surprise. I still think he's going to be overpowered, but apart from that, it's not an overly extensive patch notes. I've seen much larger ones before, but it's fine. Seems like there's some sensible changes in there, and in fact, one of the top 5 laws of magic, the Law of Life, might actually get knocked off its place because it's getting a pretty significant nerf. But we'll have to see how that's going to affect it once this patch is actually applied. Anyway, I'll be attaching on the description a link to this blog update, and also a link to my video on the top 5 laws of magic, so you can see just how powerful the top 5 laws of magic are currently, and then compare them to death. I didn't touch on death. It was part of my research when I was trying to find out which ones are the top 5. But it's not included in the video. Just a comparison to see the other 4 laws of magic in the Empire roster. So again, to reiterate, that's fire, heavens, light, and life magic. They've got 2 others, which is shadows and beasts, but they're not top 5 laws of magic. I know a lot of people do think that, probably one of the most common comments on that video was actually, why no Law of Shadows? And I did extensive research on the Law of Shadows, and I just found that it just didn't have a whole lot of killing power compared to the other ones. But anyway, check out that video to get a bit of information about the laws of magic, because it's something that I'm most interested in this game. I really like how magic works in it. And I'll be checking out this wizard on a live stream as soon as the actual content drops, which might be tonight. I don't know if it'll happen before or after I start my live stream. Otherwise, I'll be just continuing the Hellebron campaign with the Vortex campaign. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time, fuckers.